All right, welcome everyone to this meeting. This is the second February meeting of the Pike County Fiscal Court. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone if they would put their cell phones on silent or turn them off so that we don't have any interruptions during the meeting. We have somewhat of a long agenda. We had planned on having a representative from Congressman Rogers' office here today. She was not able to be here, but we hope to have her at the first meeting in March. With that being said, I would like to ask our jailer, Mr. Brian Morris, if he would say the invocation for us. Brian, would you do that for us, please? Yes.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this day. We want to thank you for leading us here together to do business with the county. I want to ask you to please bless us and guide all our decisions. May it be the most uplifting thing for your son. Be with our workers. Be with this country. Be with all that goes through the day, Lord. We ask all these things in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Judge Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Robertson.
Here.
Commissioner Tackett.
Here.
Commissioner Booth.
We have a quorum and we are ready to proceed. And I'd like to ask Pike County Sheriff Rodney Scott to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sheriff. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the January 21st, 2020 and February 4th, 2020 meetings of the Pike County Fiscal Court. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. The next item is we have a Sheriff Scott here just for a brief matter. We won't keep him. But Sheriff Scott has given us a revised general term order, which is his budget for us to acknowledge. We previously acknowledged his budget, but there was the auditors asked for one small change on how the grant money from the Board of Education was recorded. Is that correct, Sheriff?
Yes.
Numbers.
We have it listed as a grant, and they kind of frowned upon that, and so we just they wanted to just split it up between expense and payroll, so that's what we did. We put half in expenses and half in payroll.
Is there a motion to approve the amended general term order for the Pike County Sheriff for the calendar year 2020?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a tie. We have a second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes, and Sheriff,
you,
I'll go
Judge.
ahead and sign this for you, and you can get Ms. Little to,
I will. I'll take care of it.
Lisa, here you go. I'll give that to you. Sheriff, thank you very much. The next item is the acknowledged receipt of the proposed 2020-2021 budget from Pike County Jail. And I'd like to ask Mr. Morris and Mr. Fields and Mr. Snodgrass if they'd like to come up to the table, please.
Glad to see you guys.
And this is, first of all, this is much earlier than I believe that budgets have been presented here. We're in February. We're already getting the jail budget. And I think that we've worked closely with the jail leadership. Brian, you all have done a fantastic job, and we appreciate that. And I'll let you explain some of the programs. You can give us an update on the jail. But one of the things that we've tried to do is we started trying to work on the budget stuff here at the fiscal court and with the jail substantially before they're due so that we can have some time, if we need to make some changes, make any kind of amendments, we can do that. But you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, it's a little early, but we wanted to submit it so you guys had enough time to work this in your budget. I want to thank the court first and foremost, and I'm going to thank Frankie. Frankie's awesome. He answers all the questions. He takes time to sit down and explain things to you. And I want to say thanks to Frankie and the court for supporting the jail and helping us. And I think it's been a great team. I want to call it a team because I feel like that's what we are. We work hard over to the jail. When I was running for office, I made the statement that not one person can run the jail, and that is absolutely the truth. It takes the staff. I think that the staff that we've got over to the jail is outstanding. We work hard, and I think the staff that I have is in the proof. I like to sit here and say that I've done this and I've done that. It's the staff, it's the administrative people that comes together and work, and I think you guys are going to be really pleased with this year's budget. I know you can go back to the 15-16 year and the transfer in money that the court had to offset the jail to make it run in the black was somewhere around 1.8 million. And over the last several years, we've took it from 1.8 million to, I think last year's budget was 1.2 million. The current budget is like 1 million, like 999,000. The budget that I'm submitting today is 699,000 transfer in money, which if you go back to 15-16, that's like 1.2 million less. And I think that's outstanding. Revenue's up. Last year, revenue was just a little bit over 4 million. This year, we've got it up to 4.7 million. While revenue is increasing up, it does add a little extra bills in our expenditures as food, medication. So, basically, last year's budget was right at 5.1 million. This year's budget's coming in at roughly 5.5 million. It's up 400,000, but the supplement in is down 300,000, the transfer in money. And that's kind of what you got to look at. A lot of good things has happened at the jail. A lot of good programs. Our work release is starting to get geared back up for this year to take care of the parks and playgrounds and the community centers and the fire departments. I think we're assisting right now on the fish trap. I think we're helping, inmate labor's helping with the fish trap cleanup. I look for a really, really good year at the jail this year. I really do. I think it's going to be one of the best years under my administration by far. And we're excited about where we go.
Well, Brian, we met 2 or 3 weeks ago with your leadership team and talked about some of the financial problems that we're going to talk about here in a minute. And the fact that you're able to do what you've done by reducing the county subsidy by $300,000 is a big, big step toward helping us fill a hole. And I think we're going to have Mr. Stacy's up next on the agenda, and he's going to talk about that. But it's going to take a team effort, and we appreciate, you've done your part. When you see a $300,000 reduction in how much money the county's going to have to put into the jail. Yeah. Because if we weren't working together on this, the county would be in really big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
We're already having some major issues, but if we weren't working together, and you've got a great team over there, and we appreciate everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, you don't have any questions or comments?
I just want to thank you all for what you do for the county. A lot of people don't realize out here in the county what y'all do for us. As far as keeping the parks cut, the grass trimmed and everything. And I want to thank you all. Y'all do a damn good job.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you do. Out picking up the litter and everything and what you cut back, I really appreciate it. Doing an excellent job.
I agree 100%. It's a team effort. You guys, when we started the program, we asked, a judge and the commissioners asked, well, what do you need to do this? And we said, we need this, we need a truck, we need these supplies, and you guys stepped up. So, without your contribution and support of the jail, we wouldn't be here. So I want to thank all the court too.
I also want to say this. This week I had Mr. Williamson bring us a list of the properties that the county is responsible for. And if the members of the general public just sat down and looked at that list, it's really shocking how many pieces of property, fire departments, community centers, senior citizen centers, VFW buildings, all the properties that we're responsible for maintaining. And if we hadn't worked with your administration to implement or really to expand the inmate work program, these properties wouldn't be taken care of. And we're having a hard time taking care of what we have. But I'm convinced that the savings to the taxpayers is well into the six figures a year on labor costs.
Yeah.
Because if we had to use county employees to do the work that your work release program provides, I don't know how we could even quantify that. It would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and it's money the county simply doesn't have. So,
Yeah, Judge, I wish everybody would kind of look at that as not taking jobs away, but other maintaining the jobs that's here. I mean, if the Corps had to fund that, you would have to look at other places for cuts.
Brian, I don't think there's any way the county could fund it.
Yeah,
I mean,
see, I agree.
and you know, we've had people say, well, I don't like seeing inmates. That's somebody's job. Well, in theory, that's true if the county had money to pay somebody to do the job. But, you know, I think Jeannie said that when she came on board in 2006, 7, that the county had 325 roughly employees. We're down to 208 and looking probably at some reductions from there. I think at one time the county, Burt Melton, who's a good friend of ours, who was Public Works Commissioner, had nearly 50 people when he was Public Works Commissioner in that one department. And they had almost as many at that time in Public Works as you have in the jail now. And Public Works now has what, 8, Paul? So.
Six most of doing the work, plus custodians.
So 6 plus custodians. I mean, you know, we've had to make some really hard decisions, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but you weren't here at the last meeting, but at one time, as recent as 2009, the county was getting $12.3 million in coal and mineral severance, roughly.
Yeah.
This year, it's going to be $1.6 million, and even if you factor in $3.5 million or so from your occupational net profit tax, you're still $6 or $7 million below what you were getting in coal severance, mineral severance. And there's no way to absorb that when you factor in increased pension costs, increased health insurance, and, you know, and I think it's important to know, to go back and look, for the public to realize this. The county workforce is nearly half of what it was at the peak. The revenue, when I came in the state senate, the budget was $59 million. This budget will probably be $33 million. You can't lose that kind of revenue without having cuts to services. And I had talked about this gentleman on Facebook was skeptical about when I said we can only pave about 18 miles of roads a year. Well, that's just a simple fact. I mean, you only have so much money. Frankie, what was it? How much per district for each road lot for Blacktop? 80?
Just in Blacktop, about 70,000. The total budget for the districts was like 165.
So you're talking, 70,000. You're talking less than $1 million in Blacktop. So people really need to understand the numbers that the county's facing. I've tried to educate people to understand the situation that we're in, that you're in. You're doing a great job, and we appreciate that. The sheriff's doing a remarkable job, but you've got needs at the jail. The sheriff's got needs, and it's hard to meet those needs.
I understand 100%. It's tough. Just the co-severance funding alone. I mean, how do you survive that? I mean, you're talking $6, $7, $8 million. I mean,
well, if it was a private business, they'd probably be back.
Well,
out of business.
Yeah, you'd be like. I mean, I hate to say this, but the coal industry in this area. I mean, it's unheard of that a coal company operating coal right now hasn't filed bankruptcy. I mean, and that's exactly where the county would be. So tough decisions and tough cuts. It has to be made, and I mean, I don't envy you guys. I really don't. I used to sit up there, and I know the seat that you're in, and it's a tough seat.
I will say this: I do think that these gentlemen should be commended because they've had to make harder decisions in the last year. And I'll take the heat for whatever whatever the public wants to throw at them. I'll take it because here's why. The commissioners walked into a situation that they didn't make. I walked into a situation I didn't make. But we were elected to fix it. You were elected to fix it. And we're doing that. It's not going to be popular. It's not going to be without pain. But if we don't take the steps necessary to fix it now, in a few years, the county will basically be unable to provide essential services. And I go back to what happened in Knott County last year. Knott County had to stop all their road work except for emergency road work. They've only got 6 people in the entire county working on roads. Martin County Sheriff's Office basically shuts down at noon every day. We've not had to do that. And a lot of people who want to question the decisions that we've made, for instance, raising the garbage bill. And this is the thing that people don't realize. If we shut the landfill down tomorrow, there's $3 million, too little money in that account to close it. The county's on the hook for $3 million the day it shuts down if that happens. And that's not a decision that we made that led us to that point, but we're responsible for fixing it. And you know, I do think the commissioner form of government has worked. I think it's made us focus on the big picture about the future of the entire county, you know, not just my part of the county or where Ronnie lives or Jason lives or Brian lives. We've had to focus, what do we have to do to make sure that there's a future where Pike County government continues to be able to take care of roads, picks up the garbage, operates the jail, works with the sheriff's office. And those decisions are getting harder and harder to make. But I want to thank these guys for the work that they've done as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I mean, just look through the state. I mean, I think it was it Breathitt County that closed down their sheriff's office?
Breathitt shut down the sheriff's office.
Not too long ago. They cut down, was it Bell County Jail they closed? They closed Bell County Jail. I mean, go out through the other counties in the state and see how they're falling apart. And, you know, the sheriff's office is doing well. The judges, I mean, the jail's doing well. You guys are making hard decisions. You know, we're still moving forward. As long as you keep moving forward, you're doing something right. And they're hard decisions. I know that. And I'll support you guys in any decision you make. And if I can help, let me know. I'll be the first to the table to try to help.
And we again appreciate all the work that you've done for. And this is a huge step toward us helping us cover the shortfall
You know,
next year.
and like I do want to say one more time. I mean, the staff at the jail is amazing. I mean, but we got the right people in the right positions doing the right things, and I think my numbers shows that. I think it's a team effort over to the jail, and I'm proud of the workers there.
If we can get to the point, and we're going to have to do a bond issue on the landfill, we're going to spend somewhere near $5.5 million to get the permit done, to get the construction done, to where we can expand it. That will give us up to 50 years of additional airspace at 80,000 tons a year based on the engineer's calculations. Now, right now, there's only about 60,000 tons a year going in. So it would help us be able to market it. And, you know, if we can get 50 more years, we'll all be gone by that point in time, most likely. And but it would guarantee that the people of this county would have a way to dispose of their solid waste. But here's another thing. It's sort of what you're trying to do with the jail. You're getting close to where you're almost self-sufficient. There's only 1 or 2 other jails in the state that run in the black without any support from the county government. But we're trying to do the same thing with the landfill. If we can get the landfill to where it brings in revenue from outside the county, it will help offset the rates for taxpayers here, for ratepayers here, and help pay for county government services.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And one of the things I wanted to mention to you was if we can get to the point, as we pay the debt down, I think the debt service on the jail was somewhere around $380,000. Once we get that paid down a little more, or if we can roll everything into a refinancing package more economically, it would behoove the people of the county to expand the jail, move your offices, add some additional bed space, because long term, if you can continue to grow the number of federal and state inmates, you know, we could get to the point where there's no county subsidy for the jail.
You know, my goal is the next year to 2 to run the jail in the black, to where there's no transfer of money from the fiscal court. I believe I can get there, but if you look at the jail, the kind of the same way that you guys are looking at the landfill. You're running out of space. You got to have money to stretch out the landfill. You know, I really wasn't prepared to talk about this, but I will for just a minute. You got to look at the jail the same way as you look at the landfill. I know it's a strange thing to say, but you know, right now we got a 356 bed facility, and we try to bring revenue in through our state inmates and the U.S. Marshal inmates. More of them we house, the more money we get in, and it's getting harder because the county inmates that's coming in now, I didn't look at the count this morning, but I'm going to say it's probably 100 to 110, 105 county inmates. Them are non-paying customers. So the county inmates is taking up 1/3 of my bed space. But what's happening is there's no more Otises in counties. Otis was the town alcoholic from the Andy Griffith Show. He turned himself in, turned himself out. There's no more of them. It's turned from alcohol to drugs. You know, we're getting more and more crystal meth users into the jail, and they're not coming in as misdemeanors anymore. They're coming in as felonies, and they're not getting out. So in the next 5 years, you're going to see the county population go from 100 to 105 to 2 to 210 to 215. And what that's going to do is that's going to push your paying customers out the door. And instead of a jailer coming in here asking for $699 transfer of money, it's going to be reversed. They're going to be coming here and they're going to be telling you, we're going to give you $699 and you're going to have to supplement the jail $3.5 million. I mean, and that's where it's going. I mean, I'm telling you, it's where it's going. So I'm not making a push for any kind of remodeling or anything, but in the future, if we could work together and generate, if we could generate another 100 beds, 100 beds is another $1.2 million worth of revenue coming in. If I had another 100 beds right now, I would be coming to this court meeting right now telling you, I don't need $699,000. I'm going to run in the black $600,000-$700,000.
And either way, you're gonna have a bond payment.
Well, either way, you know, and that's something else. I don't know how long's the jail bonded out for, Frankie? Do you know? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
3 or 4 more years.
3 or 4 more years. I mean, and right now, the way the jail's built, it's on two different, I'm gonna say foundations. You got the original built in '89, then you got the second built in 2004. And I don't know who was the engineer or anything, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but the '89 version is a heck of a lot better than the '04. The '04 is pretty much falling apart. You got 2 different mechanisms, 2 different heating and coolings, 2 different electrical systems, and they don't butt up together. And that's a lot of expense too. But didn't mean to get on that, but that's the truth.
I'm glad you did, because Thursday, I have to meet with one of the financial advisors that have been working with us. And we have to take I'm just now telling Judge Hickman this, we have to have a preliminary estimate on what the jail or the landfill costs will be. And it would be worth our time, Frank, if you can get me the balance on the bond on the jail building. Okay. That way we can look at what the possibility is of consolidating our debt, refinancing it, and trying to, because if we could spend $1 million and recoup $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 a year, that's a no-brainer. And I want to look at that. I mean, I'm intrigued by that concept, because going forward, it may be the only way the county can continue to operate and provide those services. And I don't think a lot of people realize, and Brian, you know, because you sat up here for a year or two, people don't realize what we do. We put over $1 million a year right out of the county budget into our senior citizen centers and fire departments. They provide thousands of meals every year to needy seniors. Yesterday, Randy Courtney, Pike County Firefighters Association, we had a fire on Johns Creek. You had Johns Creek was there. You had Coal Run Fire Department was there. You had people from Island Creek and Turnout Gear working. And this past week, I want to mention, before we go any further, the crews that responded to the train derailment. And while you're here,
Absolutely.
It was remarkable that no one was killed, and just, by the luck of, by sheer luck and the grace of the Lord, that nobody died. But when you turn around and you see Millard Fire Department, Marbone, Belfry, members of Prestonsburg, and I'm sure there's others at Pikeville Fire Department. Pikeville sent, because of their mutual aid agreement. Elkhorn City was there. I mean, you think about, we can't afford to cut funding for our fire departments and senior citizens. I mean, to me, that's one of the last things.
Absolutely.
But as we continue to have to deal with what we're going to talk about in a minute, it may get to the point where we have no other alternative. And if we can save money at the jail, if we can reduce that share, that's money that we could use to provide services like senior citizen centers, fire departments. We also, as you know, provide community buildings, parks and playgrounds. We pick up garbage for 20,000 customers. We help provide a subsidy to the sheriff's office, which in part has helped to put deputies in every high school. They've expanded it almost, I guess, nearly tripled the number of certified deputies that they have. You have expanded the work release program. People don't realize the work that's been done to try to move the county past this dependence on coal severance tax, but that's not easy to do. And we're going to continue to work at it, and we appreciate you all. Great. Is there a motion to acknowledge the Pike County Jail Fund budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Guys, thank you very much.
If you want to stay around, you all might want to stay around because Mr. Stacy
Chase.
is up next on the agenda.
We will. We'll sit and listen.
Next item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is the Pike County Treasurer's financial update. And I've asked Mr. Stacy to provide the county an update on our financial situation. And I put this, there's a lot of important stuff on the agenda today, and I hope that those of you who are here on other issues will bear with me, because there's nothing more important than the financial affairs of the county. That's the number one responsibility that the fiscal court has, is to oversee the county's finances. And after we saw the third quarter of coal and mineral severance, it raised, red flags, continued red flags, because of the continuing downturn in coal and mineral severance. And I showed at the last court meeting some slides about what the county's revenue was. And I don't want to go through that whole thing again, but 2009, 2010, the county was getting somewhere 12.3 million in coal and mineral severance. Last year, the county collected about 2.5 million in coal and mineral severance. This year, we're on pace to be somewhere between 1.6 and 1.7 million. And when your coal and mineral severance goes down 800,000 to 900,000 from one year to the next, that's going to have a ripple throughout the county's entire budget. So I've asked Mr. Stacy to give us an update, and the members also, just for informational purposes, I have asked that you be given a copy of the preliminary capital expenditure list. This is a work in progress, and I don't know that we've totaled it up on here. I'm sorry. The total capital plan and this deals with the road lots. It deals with public works, solid waste. Does not include any capital expenditures for the jail. That's something that needs to be added, but it's already up to $11,075,000. And those are needs that that's money, if we had it right now, it's things we absolutely need. There's no way to fund this all right now, and it will take years to do that. But I thought it would be important for the members to have a copy of this so that they could look at it and see what we've compiled so far. Mr. Stacy, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Like you said, we've started the budget process. One of the first things we have to do each year is present the jail budget to the fiscal court, and we've done that today, and I appreciate Brian for reducing his budget because it will make it easier for us to balance our budget. We are right now about 2/3 through our current year budget. Some of the big things that need to be brought to light on this year's budget, and I think you've touched on some of them, but one thing is we did not take the property tax increase, the compensating rate this year. And I commend the court. I think the public don't need to be taxed anymore unless absolutely necessary. But as my job as treasurer, I still need to inform the court the effect on the budget was probably estimated to be about $240,000. Coal severance, we had budgeted $1 million for coal severance this year. Through 3 quarters, we're already down $264,000. We're only estimated to receive $650,000 through this year instead of the $1 million we had in our budget. That's going to affect our budget about $350,000 this year. Mineral severance is down $93,000 through 3 quarters. We had budgeted $1.1 million. We're estimated to get about $950,000 for the year, so it's going to affect our budget about $150,000 this year. Going into next year's budget, some things that we do know right now, probably the biggest dark cloud looming over our budget is the contribution rate to the pension. As far as legislature goes right now, it's like a 12% increase each year, compounded for the next 10 years. This year, it goes from 24.06% to 26.95%. For next year's budget, that's going to cost us about $270,000, but that will compound 12% in future years. Coal severance, we're estimating we're going to take in $650,000 this year. I think coal production for next year, according to market research, is going to be from 36 million this year down to like 18 million tons for next year. So production is going to be 50%. I estimate that we're going to have to cut $700,000 from our budget number of $1 million from coal severance of last year and cut it down to about $300,000. It's on about a 50% decrease each year. Mineral, probably for next year, we will budget $850,000. We had budgeted $1.1 million. We're only going to take in about $950,000 this year, but it's still on a downward decline, so that will affect our budget about $250,000 from this year's budget. Some of our insurance and numbers that we have projected increases for: our health insurance, they project a 5% increase, which will estimate about $80,000. Property and casualty insurance, 3% increase, which will be about a $30,000 increase. Workers' comp is projected about a $96,000 increase.
Can you give me those numbers on health insurance, the insurance numbers again?
Health insurance is projected to go up $80,000, which is 5%. Property and casualty insurance is $30,000 increase, which is a 3% increase. Workers' comp is projected to go up $96,000. So last year, the numbers on the not taking the compensating rate and the coal and mineral actually decreased our revenue this year about almost $600,000. The numbers that we know for next year on the pension, coal and mineral, and the insurance, we're going to be looking at about a $1.4 million decrease in revenue and added expenses that we're going to have to factor into next year's budget. that we know of right now.
Now, basically, we could subtract the 300,000 in savings from the jail's supplement from that, correct?
Yes, yes.
So
His
that-
300,000 savings will factor off of the 1.4 on the budget once it becomes part of our budget in June.
So we're looking at a cut of about 1,126,000 just on a break-even point.
Yes.
Now, you know, Mr. Hickman, to my left, ran a company that had 200 employees and a $50 million budget. And he made the statement to me yesterday, said, well, you know, if this was in the private sector, it would be not easy, but it would be apparent what had to be done. And from his business experience, both, you know, as a vice president, associate vice president at the hospital, I guess that's the right term, and as CEO of a large company, he basically said that he thought that we needed to make sure if we're going to have to make reductions, that prudently, because we know that the coal severance tax, from Governor Beshear's budget, he's only returning $18 million in total coal severance in 21. And in 22, the second year of the biennium, that number's down to 13 million. So it's clear that that coal severance is going to continue to go down. And to me, if we're going to have to make reductions, because we also know that in the second year from now, that the pension costs are going to go up the rate will go up another 12%. So you're talking 270 this year, and then probably another 300 plus
Right.
in the
Saying
next
that
year.
salaries and everything stay the same.
And the only way that we can reduce the pension cost is to reduce payroll. There's no other way, because it's simply a percentage of our payroll. And we have very little room left to cut. And no one likes to talk about reductions in the budget, but the simple fact of the matter is, if you don't have the money, you can't spend it. And at the end of the day, we have to submit, unlike in Washington, we have to submit a balanced budget. Is that correct, Frankie?
Have to submit a balanced budget by June
And
30.
if the worst thing that we could do, in my opinion, the worst thing that we could do, now it's possible, we're going to have a carry forward this year. And that was brought up by another elected official, where you're going to have a surplus. Well, when you're sitting here with a capital plan of $11 million just to provide for basic equipment for your road lots, your solid waste, and you know you're going to have to re-permit the landfill, it would be foolish to say that we have a surplus per se. You know, we've got some money theoretically in savings, but we've also got some major problems that we're going to have to address. Now, I, for one, I'm just one vote, I will not support a budget that takes any cash reserves that we have at the end of the year to fill a structural imbalance in the budget for the next year. Frankie, would you be in agreement with that as the treasurer?
If you did that, you basically just be kicking the can down the road, because you're just living off cash. You're not staying within your means. Eventually, there'll be like a day that you won't have that money, and then to balance your budget then would be a nightmare.
If we depleted the reserve that we may have at the end of the year, would we be able to fulfill this capital plan?
No. I mean, I'm all behind the court buying new equipment. I think the age of all the equipment that we've got right now, the parts that we spend at the maintenance garage, things like that, that would be the best investment. I would not spend all that you have on that. I mean, you know, you never can tell when the next disaster is around the corner, and you know, you need a rainy day fund of some sort. You need a cash reserve. The idea to spread that equipment over 5 years and replace is a really good idea.
But I'm going to go back to my question. You're the guy that's passed the CPA exam, and if I could have done math, I'd probably be a neurosurgeon now. But my question is, would it be financially responsible to spend a reserve to fill the hole in next year's budget, considering the impact it would have in future years?
No.
And that's why I've taken the position. My experience in the legislature was the legislature had a bad habit, and Brian knows what I'm getting ready to talk about, of taking one-time monies, lawsuit settlements and things like that, to patch gaping holes in the state budget. And the next year, the hole's just that much deeper, and you don't have that, a lawsuit settlement or whatever it was. I mean, there's one year we got a settlement from Anthem. There was money from, drug company settlements and things like that. We don't have any hope of anything like that coming in to fill these budget holes. And what my observation, when we came in last year, we did something probably that hadn't been done. I asked Frankie to go back and look at the revenue from all the sources and the expenditures for the preceding 5 years to get a trend so we could see where this was going. And what he actually did is he went back 20 years on coal and mineral severance. And, there was a period in the early 2000s that the coal and mineral did this, and then after about 2010, it started doing this, and it's gone down almost every single year. And I don't think that there's any way that we could be responsible and move forward with a budget process if we didn't factor in that coal and mineral is going to continue to decline. And if we only budget $300,000 for coal severance next year, you're almost at the bottom. I mean, you're almost to the point where you'd be better off
Just to not budget for it.
not budget any coal severance, and whatever you get is gravy. And I think that the budget that I will present to the court by May 1st will probably have no money for coal severance. And if we recover coal severance, fine. But, we budgeted $1 million this year, and we're going to get around $650,000. And let me say this. When we budgeted $1 million last year, let me tell you how we did that. The previous administration budgeted $1.7 million in the 19 fiscal year, and we collected $1.3 million. So it came in $400,000 below what they had budgeted. So when we did this budget, we thought, okay, we'll budget $1 million, and that should be a reasonably accurate estimate. Well, we budgeted $1 million, and it's on pace to be $650,000, $350,000 below what we budgeted. And when you look at the previous year, total coal and mineral goes from $2.5 million to somewhere this year 1.6 to 1.7. That's an $800,000 decrease to $900,000 in 1 year. Is that correct, Frankie?
Yes.
At the same time, all of our costs are going up. So what I'm asking the members of the court to do is, my budget will probably have a cut of somewhere around 1.426 because I'm probably not going to budget. The budget I submit to you probably will not have any coal severance tax in it. And it's not going to be a pretty budget. It's going to be very unpopular because we simply have to find 1.4 million in this budget. It's going to be hard to do considering our payroll and benefits. 12.8 million, Frankie, somewhere in that neighborhood.
12.8 right now.
12.8 million is what it cost out of a budget. When you factor out the FEMA projects, the state road aid, you're probably looking at a budget of about 26 million. So you're almost half your budget that we have control over goes for pay and benefits. So what I'm asking each of the members of the court to do, I have instructed each of our department heads and managers by March 15th to present to me a budget reduction plan of 5% and a separate plan for 10%. And those plans need to itemize where the cuts will be and how much. They need to have a dollar figure, just so the management team will know. Don't bring me something and just with some ideas. It needs to have specific dollar amounts, because if we've trusted you to manage a department where we're spending, taxpayer money, I need itemized changes with dollar figures. And I'm asking each member of the court by April 1st to present me their plan in writing as to how they would achieve a $1.126 million cut. And what I'd ask you to do, you can have access to any of the information that we get from the cuts that are proposed. That we'll have that information March 15th. And there's no excuse for any management team member not to have me their information by March 15th. I have to have it. And I'll give that information to the commissioners. If you need any information from Frankie, he's available. He works for you all. You can go in with him, meet with him, any team in the management, any department head that you need to meet with. But I'm asking each member of the court to give me their plan on how we would do this with specific dollar amounts and where they would come from. We're going to have to be very careful on how we do this. Commissioner Booth's got some great ideas we talked about yesterday. But it's not going to be easy to come up with 1.1 million or 1.4 million. And Brian's done his part. Brian, we appreciate that. That's 300,000 right there. That's roughly a fifth of what we're going to have to cut. And I don't look forward to this, and I'm not saying this lightly. I've had trouble sleeping a few nights in the last couple weeks thinking about what we're going to have to do, because there's no easy way to do this. And, we think we can save money on our maintenance side. I met with JJ at the maintenance garage Friday, and just so the public will know, we've had some folks complaining because the garbage hadn't been get picked up. Well, we've got 5 Dodge Mini Packers left, and 3 of them were out of service Friday. Is that right, JJ? So, we think that we can save money on our maintenance side by getting rid of some of the stuff and by replacing the mini packers with the 11 yards. We've ordered 2 of those. We're going to talk about that some more. But I think it was prudent to start talking about this now, because, I had a lady message me this week. Why, the quote was, "You've got bigger problems than solid waste." Well, when you're looking at 3 years from now, the landfill being full, and there's 20,000 customers, somewhere near 55,000 people whose garbage goes in that landfill every year, that's a pretty big problem. And it's a pretty big problem considering there's a $3 million shortfall in the escrow account that we didn't create. So it's a huge problem. And we're not going to kick the can down the road. I made a promise to myself and to my family that I would do what had to be done to move this county forward. And, people can question that or they can criticize it. That's fine. Everybody has a right to do that. But it doesn't change the numbers. And numbers don't lie. And, but I'll have my plan to the court. And I'm just asking you all to get me your plan in writing by April 1st. And we can compare notes, see where we're in agreement. But it's not going to be easy when you sit down with putting pen to paper. Frankie can get you a copy of the current budget. He can get you a copy of his proposed budget. Justin can get you copies of salaries and information on personnel side, because I do think that there will have to be personnel reductions. There's no other way. Frankie, can you see any way to make the cut without personnel reductions at this point? Justin?
No, Judge, I don't. I don't. On the personnel reductions, it just makes sense, because you're going to save on the retirement, and you're going to get another savings on the comp side by the reduction of payroll. I don't know any other way, without disrupting complete services, to save anything.
Frankie?
Like you said, Judge, you're down to 208 people. There's not much more room to cut, but whenever they've cut budgets in the past, they've never been able to do it without looking at personnel. That's just, like you said, that's about half your discretionary budget is payroll and fringe. So if you're going to make budget cuts, you would at least have to look at it. There's no way around it.
All right. Does the members of the court have any questions for the treasurer's office?
Not yet.
All right. Frank, anything else you'd like to add at this point? No, Judge. Mr. Hickman, do you have anything? Judge, do you have anything?
The only thing I'd like to add, I think, is that the patience required when personnel cuts have to be made with relation to what happens with services is directly proportional. And the county, the folks in the county are going to have to understand that as this happens, there's going to be some adjustment period required as to how services will be provided as personnel's cut. And it's a tall, daunting task to do this. And everybody's dialed in on this side of the bench for sure. It would just really be good to make sure that everybody out there that's listening and lives in the county understands what this task is going to entail, because it's going to be really, really tough.
I do want to say something that, you know, I've had some folks say, well, you know, you've been in office a year. It's really time, you know, to move past pointing fingers at prior administrations. And I don't intend this comment to be a criticism of any person. But at the time, there's a reason that we're where we are right now. And it was because of financial mismanagement in years past. It was because people wanted to build parks and playgrounds and all this stuff to get reelected, instead of putting money back for a rainy day and living within your means. Every penny that the county had every year was spent. And we're paying for that now. And if you're listening to this program or you're watching on Facebook, you just think to yourself, if you spend every penny you had and you didn't have anything in savings for your family, where would you be? What kind of position would you be in? Well, a lot of families find themselves in that position. A lot of families find themselves in that position because somebody's been laid off, somebody's gotten sick. But there was no excuse for the largest county in Kentucky that at one time had a budget of over $60 million to be in this position. There's no reason why the escrow account for the landfill shouldn't be fully funded. There's no reason money wasn't put back for solid waste equipment or to expand the landfill that everybody knew was filling up. There's no reason that the prior administrations ran to the state surplus auctions and bought a bunch of junk and then expected road work to be done with it. So I would ask the people to just recognize that the decisions we make were not because of situations created by this administration and this court, but were longstanding problems that we're now having to address because of just sheer oversight in years past. You know, it was easy to kick the can down the road, and then, you know, it's been kicked down the road so far that it's either address it now or we're going to pay a terrible price for it in a very short period of time. The next item on the agenda is Mr. Austin Bradley from, I'm going to skip over. I'm going to get Austin out of here real quick because he probably needs to get back to work. Austin, would you come on up and have a seat, please? Austin, please proceed. And introduce yourself and tell everyone, the folks that may not know who you are watching this on TV or on Facebook, if you would tell them who you are and you're here to give us an update on the Breaks Interstate Park.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge Jones. My name is Austin Bradley. I'm the superintendent of Breaks Interstate Park. And I really appreciate the fiscal court for having me today to allow me to explain some things about the breaks, kind of briefly where we came from and where we're headed. I will say before I start that a lot of the conversations that I've heard you all have this morning are similar conversations that I've had with my commissioners, 4 of which are from Kentucky and 4 from Virginia, just over the last year. We actually just underwent a reduction in force whereby 2 positions were laid off and 1 was just not refilled after the person retired. And I've always been proud to be from the Appalachian Mountains. I lived for 6 years in Knott County. The rest of my time has been spent in Buchanan and Dickinson County in Virginia. And there's that old saying that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I'm proud to be a member of those who remain here in the mountains and are trying to make this situation work. So I appreciate the leadership that's on display today as you all make hard decisions. On a much smaller scale, we're making those same decisions at the park. But I'll begin my presentation, which you can see up on the screen now. So Breaks Interstate Park began with a partnership. The picture that's displayed there is Kentucky Governor Lawrence Weatherby shaking hands with Virginia Governor Thomas Stanley in 1953. There's this story about how, the gentleman that really kind of kicked off the effort to found Breaks Interstate Park was a former mayor of Pikeville, Kelly Day, a businessman in Pikeville. And there's this story about how all these efforts fell through to establish Breaks Interstate Park. There was an effort that came before Congress to establish the Breaks of Sandy National Park. It came through at the same time as Cumberland Gap National Park came through, and Cumberland Gap was chosen and Breaks of Sandy fell through. There was another effort to protect the Russell Fork Gorge, which is the Breaks Gorge, the deepest east of the Mississippi River, and all that beautiful property that surrounds it in Kentucky and Virginia as part of Jefferson National Forest. And that effort ultimately fell through because the National Forest Service couldn't come to agreements with landowners. That's when Mr. Day came in, and there's this old story about how he took Governor Weatherby up from Elkhorn City through the High Narrows, which was at that time, it's Route 80, but was just a dirt road. And he led them up to the park to State Line Overlook, where you're actually standing in Virginia, but almost everything you can see is the park, or is the Kentucky portion of the park. And Governor Weatherby, the story goes, told Mr. Day, Mayor Day, at that time, that if he would get him back off the mountain alive, back to Pikeville, that he would support the founding of Breaks Interstate Park, and he would work to have Route 80 paved from Elkhorn City into the park, which he ultimately did. And the Breaks Interstate Park became one of only two interstate parks in the nation in 1954, when Kentucky and Virginia passed identical legislation, the Breaks Interstate Park Compact. So currently we have 4 members from Kentucky that serve on the commission. They consist of the Lieutenant Governor of Kentucky, the Commissioner of Kentucky State Parks, and 2 citizen appointees. On the Virginia side, you have 1 standing seat, who is the Director of the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and you have 3 citizen appointees. So it's 4 and 4. Kentucky commissioners vote equally with Virginia commissioners on matters pertaining to the Virginia side, and the same is true for Virginia commissioners. So we kind of view ourselves as kind of like a Switzerland. We don't really see the state border within park property because we just work together as a team to administer the park the best we can. The next slide, this dream of an interstate park has continued to this present day and been successful because of continued cooperation. The picture on the slide is Splash in the Park. It's our water park that was constructed to replace our old dilapidated pool, which was made possible in part by this fiscal court in 2012. So Kentucky.
Let me interrupt you there just briefly on that. I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
That was funded by the General Assembly.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And if you recall, you may not have been there at the time, I was involved in this because the fiscal court asked us for $1 million of coal severance tax for it. And we did it. And the next thing you know, we had folks from the fiscal court on TV criticizing the General Assembly members for sending money to Virginia. That's a fact. After they had sent us their Christmas wish book with $1 million for that project, we put $500,000 in, we got criticized for it. So I just want to set the record straight on that. The Breaks Interstate Park, in my opinion, Austin, has the greatest potential for tourism development of anything in this region, and Pike County needs to take advantage of that. That's why we asked you to come down today. So proceed.
Yes, sir, I agree. And sorry about that. I was new at that time, Judge, and the fiscal court took credit for it at the time, so I thought they were heavily involved.
Until they sued the legislature.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I stand corrected. Some of the more recent partnerships on there that we have with Pike County that I'm personally familiar with is a great partnership with Pike TV, whereby they produce our marketing materials and our videos that we put out on social media, which have been extremely successful. We're work hand in hand with Pikeville and Pike County Tourism, and our visitation is about 50%. It ranges. 1 year, Virginia will, usually it's about 25% and 25% of Kentucky and Virginia citizens make up about 50% of our visitation. We support 125 jobs. Only 10 of those are full-time. The rest are seasonal, part-time. About $1.2 million in wages and $2.5 million in direct spending by visitors each year. So despite trying times, that's what we've been talking about this morning, the park is 85% self-funded. So I heard Judge Jones congratulate our jailer this morning about his march towards self-sufficiency, and you will not find another example of a park anywhere in the United States that is as close to being self-sufficient as we are. So Kentucky and Virginia combined to give us about 15% of our budget. That's about 1/3 the level that a typical state park in Kentucky or Virginia is funded at. We're not typically included in bond projects that other state parks, enjoy, like the recent Refreshing the Finest campaign in Kentucky state parks. I'm not sure if that was a bond project, but it was $50 million that was appropriated to assist state parks in Kentucky with making upgrades to their infrastructure. Virginia does similar projects. So when 85% of your revenue is self-generated through your visitors, and you've always enjoyed, Tico Coal, Wellmore Coal coming up and doing these large employee appreciation parties and Christmas parties for their employees. And then all of a sudden, about 2011, 2012, all that just goes away. You really start thinking about diversification at that point, just as I know you all are right now. So next slide, please. Some of our efforts towards adventure tourism or towards diversification have a lot to do with adventure tourism. If you all could, if whoever is clicking the slides could click the next slide. Well, I guess we'll have to go back because the graphic, if we could go back, the graphic is not displaying properly. The graphic that was supposed to be up there are logos from some of our partnerships that we have going on. So we've partnered with some Kentucky companies like the 361 Adventures, Next Opportunity Events, Kentucky Whitewater, to bring a lot of value to our customers. We host multiple adventure races every year. You can book whitewater rafting trips in the park. We offer guided rock climbing now, guided elk tours, guided kayak trips. We've built a zip line, and all that has been done since 2015 in an effort to redefine ourselves as a national adventure tourism destination. It did culminate with us setting a revenue record in 2018. It was the best year that we'd ever had on record for revenue. And then I'll come to my final slide. So I wanted to talk to you all about a project I think that Judge Jones kind of alluded to and that we have in the works right now. So we want to continue building bridges between the two states. We want to continue being a place where interstate cooperation happens in an effort to increase our economic impact, not only because we need it to survive, but because the region needs it. And we want to bring in additional tourism. So as we've continued this adventure tourism push, We basically took an idea that came from a 2015 master planning effort that we had, where we assembled over 100 stakeholders from Kentucky and Virginia. And throughout an 18-month process, we asked them, what would you like to see happen here at Breaks Interstate Park? What direction would you like to see us go in? And one of the biggest things that came out of that is the desire to see the Kentucky and the Virginia side more closely connected. And when you were founded, when you were originally founded, because you protect the deepest gorge east of the Mississippi River, and that gorge divides the Kentucky side from the Virginia side, that question of being interconnected is a little tough. You have to bridge that gulf between the two. And that's where this idea for basically the Russell Fork Swinging Bridge, we've called it different things, the Russell Fork Swinging Bridge, the Potter's Flats Bridge, came into being. But regardless of what it will ultimately be called, we think it's going to be very important for economic development in the park and in the Elkhorn City community. It plays off Elkhorn City's status as a Kentucky trail town. It will serve as a connector. It's part of a broader project to actually connect the Appalachian Trail in Burke's Garden, Virginia, with the Pine Mountain Trail in Elkhorn City through the Breaks Interstate Park. So as you all know, the Appalachian Trail is just a nationally known destination for adventure tourism, and this will be the only place where the Appalachian Trail actually connects into Kentucky. And one of our very early funders is working on that connection, and that's why that was one of the big reasons why they funded this bridge, is because they believe in that connection. It will open Potter's Flats. There's very little flat developable land left in the park that hasn't been developed. But this bridge will provide easy access to Potter's Flats, which is a large section of property on the Kentucky side that's just ripe for development. Cabins, yurts, canopy, adventure tours, that kind of thing, mountain bike trails. But right now, the only way to really get over there is a 2.5 mile hike in from Elkhorn City via the Pine Mountain Trail, or illegally crossing over the CSX Railroad Bridge, which happens quite a bit. And that's a long way to jump if a train meets you out on Pool Point Bridge. So we're hoping to have a safer way to connect people over there. And we think if we have a legitimate, convenient way to connect people into Potter's Flats, that it will lead to additional development on the Kentucky side. It will be the longest bridge, the longest swinging bridge in North America at 725 feet. The current bridge that holds that title is located in Gatlinburg, and it's 680 feet in length. And before I get into the funding, I'm going to end with this, Judge and Commissioners. Again, I really appreciate you all allowing me to speak with you today. But there's always been a feeling, for a long period of time, ever since I've been at the park, 2010 and way before that most of the development in the park has occurred on the Virginia side. And that sentiment really bothers me because it's true. And criticism that I consider invalid, that doesn't bother me. But criticism that's actually based in fact, that bothers me. So when I first came to the park, one of my early objectives was to change that, was to start seeing development on the Kentucky side, to start trying to see what we could do over there. And I feel like building the longest swinging bridge in North America to open up that property is a good first step. So that's why I'm before you today, Judge, and I've got the financial breakdown. The very last portion of that slide there says that we have $559,000 firmly committed. You can see the breakdown between the Kentucky funding and the Virginia funding. I think the commissioners have a more detailed breakdown of that amount. The total cost of the bridge is $750,000. I know we'll get to this, and I don't want to speak out of turn, Judge, but I know we're asking for a consideration of $40,000 today, and that will bring us within just about $150,000 of our goal of $750,000 to build this bridge, and I have a strong lead on the remaining $150,000. So I believe we can get this done. The contractors that have shown interest they built the arc. It's the contractor that built the arc near Frankfurt. They're the only other company other than NOAA who I know of who's built an arc. It's the largest wooden structure in the world, so they're very reputable. We're excited to have interest from them. And also the folks who built the Gatlinburg Bridge was with me just last week looking at the project. They're going to bid on the project, so we've gotten some really good attention. So far, this project has been featured in Southern Living. It's been featured in REI online journal, if you're familiar with REI apparel and outdoor gear. I know the Outdoor Magazine is working on a story for it. I just got a press release that we're going to hopefully be featured in Virginia Living because of this bridge, even though it's completely on the Kentucky side. So with that, Judge Jones, I know you have a long agenda, and I'll bring my portion to a close.
Sitting here looking at this proposal, and we had an opportunity to meet. I think you had spoken with one or two of the commissioners separately. What your request is, as I understand it, is from the fiscal court to commit $40,000 in recaptured coal severance tax money to the project. If the other funding falls in place, that we would put $40,000 in to make this longest swinging bridge in the country. North America,
yes,
a
sir.
reality. And just so the folks out there who've listened to our talking about the budget, we have a small pool of money that is money that we've recaptured, rent money from the Coca-Cola building, and maybe some other monies in that account that only can be used for economic development projects. And that was one of the issues that we've had with the court in the past is single county coal severance tax money that the legislature controlled was spent on things that didn't involve job creation. And we're paying the price for that now. People are having to leave. There's no jobs here. And I took a position several years ago when I was in the legislature that we were not going to spend any more coal severance tax money on anything that didn't involve economic development. And I have not, it would have been easy to try to dip into that money for some of our problems. But I've not been hypocritical. I've done exactly what I said in the legislature, that this money needs to be used only for economic development. And it's because once that money's depleted with no coal production to speak of, that pool of money is not going to be replenished like it was in years past. And Austin, just for your information and the public's, you know, when the county was getting 10, 12 million a year in coal mineral severance directly to the county, the legislature was putting another 6, 7, 8 million in water, sewer, and infrastructure projects. And some of that money was spent on other things like parks and playgrounds. And when we drew the line in the sand in about 2014, the fiscal court sued the General Assembly because we restricted the coal severance tax to economic development. And they lost that lawsuit. And this court has resisted the temptation to go after that money and use it for this project or that project. But this is a very, in my opinion, worthwhile use of coal severance tax money, because if it brings people into the park, it gives us an opportunity to expand the park, bring people into Elkhorn City. And Elkhorn City has as much potential as any small county or any small town in this region, maybe in the eastern United States. It's one of the most beautiful places with the river, the Breaks Interstate Park, and they're trying to move Elkhorn forward. And I think this will go a long way to help Elkhorn City reach its potential. So for the members of the court, that there's on the agenda, authorization to seek approval from the Department of Local Government to use recaptured coal severance tax money in the amount of $40,000 for partial funding of the Breaks Interstate Gorge Walk Bridge and approval to execute the documents. And I think Austin has explained that Do you all have any questions about that? Is there a motion to authorize the court to seek approval from the DLG to use the recaptured coal severance economic development funds for partial funding of the Walk Bridge?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Any other questions?
I just want to say it's been a pleasure us working together and discussing all this, and I think that is a great ideal in the area, and it will help not only the Elkhorn City, but I think it will help all Pike County. It will bring people to this county.
That's what I hope, Commissioner Tackett. Thank you, sir.
You know.
Yeah.
And just on this same note, I have spoken, as have the members of the court, with all of our Eastern Kentucky legislators about the bridge there at Beaver that was moved back in the governor's budget proposal. I've talked to the Secretary of Transportation's Chief of Staff. We had all actually talked to the Secretary of Transportation about this. And somehow the ball got dropped and this was moved back. I've also talked to South Santoro. Representative Santoro is the Transportation Appropriations Subcommittee Chairman that actually writes the road plan. And he was optimistic that this would be moved back up. So, you know, that's a big project as far as moving the brakes forward as well. So, so that's some good news. And so we have a motion by Commissioner Tackett, second by Commissioner Booth. See no other question or discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Austin, thank you. Keep up the good work, and whatever the court can do to help move the brakes forward, let us know.
Judge, I got one more question for you. Can you get with Fabian sometime and we can get something on that Ratliff hole up there, Fabian?
Yeah, we need an interlocal.
Okay, I'll make sure that I get that signed.
Okay.
Commissioner Tackett, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. So, Fabian, can you help get that drafted, and or we can get if.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we'll send a letter.
I'll let you all talk about that one.
Yeah. Thank you, Judge.
Austin, we'll get with you on that
Commissioners.
interlocal agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, and I apologize to Billy Carrico. Billy, come on up if you want to give us an update on, I believe you have with you Miss Erin Deaton. And you can give us an update on the Pike County Teleworks sub.
Good morning.
Welcome, sir. Please state your name and your position so we can have it on the record, and the folks out there who may be watching will know who you are.
I'm Billy Carrico with Pike County Teleworks,
And I'm Erin Deaton. I'm with EKSEP.
and we're just here to provide the court with a little bit of update. We always try to put as much information about Teleworks out as we can during these, so I appreciate the chance to do that again. Heard a lot of exciting things this morning. I know we had some tough discussion as well, but anything we can do to impact adventure tourism specifically, I think is an awesome idea. So I'm excited about that. In addition to my responsibilities at Teleworks, I also lead some youth groups in the area. So we come over here and go kayaking. We go to Fish Trap and do some of the water parks there. So anything I can keep our kids interested here. I don't have to take them to Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg or up in West Virginia. Anything we can do here, I'm always excited about. With that being said, Pike County Teleworks also plays into that as well. We try to help people stay in the county by diversifying our economy a little bit. We bring outside jobs in. Those jobs are teleworking jobs, so they are work at home, tech support, customer service jobs. As a whole, we hear a lot of positive news about our country, the economy going on. So our wages have actually increased since the last time that I have been here to talk with you guys. When we first started, the first couple of years there, 11 and a half was a pretty standard number for wages per hour. That number has easily gone up to at least $1 to 12 and a half. I have people who have been in positions now for, I've been there 3 years. I have people making 18 an hour from home. And again, our companies say that's a 30% increase. So if you made $10 working in the community and made $10 at home, it's like making 13 because of the 30% increase. The savings in gas, the savings in uniforms, eating out, that kind of thing. We have jobs available right now. We literally are working with a company that needs a couple thousand people. Those jobs start at $12 an hour. So if you have a computer and you want to make $12 an hour, come to Johns Creek and see me. For anybody watching on Facebook or on TV, and we can get you started. I have right now 265 employees, or people that I have got positions, with another 15 slated to start in the first week of March. So we'll hit 300, which is a goal for myself that I set. We'll hit that pretty quick in this year, and continue to expand beyond that. So, Judge Jones, we thank you for the chance to come here. The second part is I wanted to introduce Erin. You guys have worked with her in the past. She's been at EKSEP longer than I have, but she stepped into a new role, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my new role is community liaison and grants coordinator, and part of my new position is to work more closely with Billy and the other 8 hub managers in across our region at our other hubs. And part of what I'll be doing is, like I said, working with Billy to be more involved in the communities even more than he's doing so now. And just this morning, we were talking with Jeannie in the hallway, and an idea we had was to set up at the Hillbilly Days event. So she mentioned to give her a call after the meeting today, and that's what I plan to do. So like Billy said, we appreciate your all's support, and we look forward to a great year.
And just on a personal, Erin's one of the best. She was administrative assistant? Was that
Yes,
the title?
administrative assistant was my
pretty
title.
much anything that I needed or any of my counterparts needed as hub managers, we asked Erin, and she's spot on, very professional. One of the best people I've ever worked with, and I don't just say that. So I really appreciate Erin and the work she does, and she's going to do a great job reaching out to all of our 23 county communities, but Pike County as well.
Billy, we appreciate your work and commitment to the community. And, a lot of the problems we talked about financially here
absolutely
are directly related to the fact we're losing population. People are having to leave to find work. Mm-hmm. We've seen the school system, when I was in school here, go from 20,000 or so students down to under 8,000. A lot of your population has moved to find work.
Exactly.
And the only way we're going to fix, and we're going to talk about another important project here in just a second, but if we can't put people back to work and stop the population loss in eastern Kentucky, not just Pike County, it's got a ripple effect. We're going to probably lose a House seat or two, maybe a state Senate seat when redistricting happens next year. As the census is getting ready to start here shortly.
Yeah.
And it's important we count everybody. But it really comes down to whether people can find jobs here.
Absolutely.
And, one of the failures in the past is when they were building parks and playgrounds, they weren't looking to build industrial sites or technology sites. And we're going to talk about a project that may be one of the most important projects for the future of this county that any fiscal court's had to address. But as we sit here today, the largest geographical county in Kentucky does not have an industrial site.
Absolutely.
And that's inexcusable. And we're going to fix that before this administration is over, before this term of this court is over. We're going to have that fixed. Now, does that mean we're going to be able to recruit people in, as soon as we get it done? No. It means we're going to be, at least at that point in time, when we get the infrastructure in this other project, we'll be able to compete with other communities around the country. Right now, we can't even compete for jobs because we don't have anywhere to put anybody.
Right.
So Teleworks is a key to trying to keep people here, try to help people move from the coal industry or other jobs until we can try to diversify the economy, bring high-tech jobs or something along that line in here. Mm-hmm. But we appreciate your efforts. I know you're committed. This is your home county too. We want to say thank you. Ms. Deaton, welcome, and we look forward to working with you. The court's going to continue to work with Teleworks. We just need to try to expand it and get more people to work.
Absolutely. And I know I say it every time, but I want to stay here as well. I'm 30 now, moving up in age, and I keep finding more opportunities to stay right here. Of course, there's the outside influences and all that, but been a little distracted at work lately. Just had a new baby in October. Thank you. But I have a boy as well, so I want him and her to grow up right here where I did and have the same experience I did. And there's a future here. I believe that. So we want to stay right here, and we want to help people get to work as much as we can.
Well, Billy, why don't you, in case the folks out there listening, if they're interested in trying to find help or find a job through Teleworks, would you tell everybody how to get a hold of you, give them a phone number? Or
Absolutely. The easiest way to get a hold of me is just to call. It's 606-438-5535. We're located in the Johns Creek area, right across from Johns Creek Elementary, right next to the Public Works there on Ford Mountain. People can also just look us up on Facebook, Teleworks USA, or look up my personal Facebook. It's Billy Carrico, Carrico, and just send me a message, and we'll try to get you working if we can.
If we can do anything to help expand the program,
Absolutely.
let us know.
Yeah, that's why Aaron's here to help us with.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is we have Ms. Hall. Sharon, would you come on up, please? And would the court want to take a break? We've been at it about an hour and a half. After Ms. Hall finishes, we could take about a 5-minute break. I'm sure the folks here would appreciate that. Sharon, please proceed.
Yes, I guess I'm here to talk about the Wolf Pit Industrial and Technology Site Project. This is an 81-acre site that was created by the Kentucky Department of Transportation, or with federal dollars with US 460. This is a refuge site. This site is a controlled field site. It's one of the best industrial sites that you could possibly have, and of course it's one that we needed. The court is seeking funding for infrastructure for the site. The infrastructure would support at least 250 jobs. And these jobs would be, of course, hopefully, $20 an hour jobs, $18 an hour jobs, and up, the type of jobs that we need to replace that have been lost in the coal industry. The money, the Economic Development Administration, this is assistance to coal communities. Ordinarily, we wouldn't qualify to apply for this money without a tenant. We don't have a tenant yet, but this money will enable us to apply without one. We can get the site first and then go for the tenant.
Okay. So
Funding round is now.
with EDA, that we do not have to have a tenant in it, correct? But like
not.
CDBG,
Absolutely, yes.
ARC,
Yes.
there has to be a tenant ready to move into
Yes.
it before we can do it. So what will, and I'm sitting here looking at this, so the first package is 2.4 million. And then the rest of that money would come out of the recaptured coal severance tax money. So the first phase is 3.1 million, 1,464,000 for water, 872,000 for sewer, and 765,000 for three-phase power. Now, on the power, I understand we could go ahead and put just regular infrastructure in, but it could be expanded.
Well, they looked at that at first to start with just regular power, without the tenant. But after the engineers re-looked at that, they wanted to go ahead and it would make more sense just to go ahead and do the phase 3 power, because we're not going to have a tenant that's not going to need it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Why this funding is available,
Just go ahead and do it.
go ahead and do it now, because we don't have no promise that next year this assistance to coal communities would be available.
So this, give me a time frame. If we go ahead, authorize this today,
Yes.
we've got the money in our economic development account to do the match. And that will start us on the road. What's the time frame? So the folks out there listening to this will know.
Okay.
Before we can have all the engineering, get the funding, and get it done.
Right. We had to have the preliminary engineering done first. We did do that without funding. That's just something, they hope to get the project. we apply for the funds. Hopefully, they announce who gets the funds in the fall. But by the time that comes around, AML will also be available. We're hoping for pilot. There's a training in May, so I know that's going to be funded. We can apply for that in June to July and find that, hopefully by this fall, we'll know what funding will be in place and can start the project. We'll have to do a procurement process for the actual engineer for the project too, hopefully this summer.
So do you think, give the timeframe though? before we
Oh,
can
I'm
get-
saying 2020, we hope to get the funding, start with procuring the engineers. I'm hoping that we can break ground 2021 by the spring, maybe sooner, but just being
It's not fast.
conservative.
It's not fast enough.
I
We
know,
need to-
I know.
I mean, what can we do? Because, Karen Kelly from Congressman Rogers' office will be at the next court meeting. She was supposed to be here today. She had a family commitment that came up. I mean, that's why I want her to be here today to talk about this. But we can get with her this week. We need to try to use every avenue to try to expedite this. And we can't wait another year. We
Right.
need
I mean,
to try
I'm
to get
hoping
it.
to award this winter, we could award the project. But we have to, we have to go by their deadlines of, when you can apply, when it can be awarded.
So the deadline for AML application for the other 1.927 million.
Right.
When would that be?
They haven't made the announcement yet. But the fact that they have put out that there's going to be a training on May the 14th, I know that there's going to be an application period starting in June.
I mean, we have to get this right.
Right.
We need to make sure that we reach out to Congressman Rogers, and it's really important. So, I mean, keep the court updated. I'd like an update on
Yes.
this every court meeting. I don't care if nothing's changed.
I will, definitely.
Every court meeting, I want you to tell us where we are with it.
Right.
Okay? And
I mean, just to procure an engineer, you're talking a month. Because you advertise 7 to 21 days, and this is federal money, so you have to go by 200 SFR. You have to advertise 7 to 21 days. Of course, do the process of scoring the RFQs, whatever, and then award it. That's a month.
all right. Is there any
But I definitely will keep you updated.
All right. Is there any question by the members of the court? Comment? Is there a motion for authorization to apply for the Economic Development Assistance to Cole Communities Grant, EDA, in the amount of $2,481,210 for funding Phase 1 of the Wolf Pit Industrial Site and approval to execute all documents? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
I was going to say, which you probably did mention that, the reason we have to use the recapture money is because there's a 20% match required with the EDA, just to clarify.
All right. So that would pretty much, well, there'd still be some money in that account, but is there authorization to seek approval from the Department of Local Government to use recapture coal severance in the amount of $620,303 as matching economic development funds for the Phase 1 of the Wolf Pit Industrial Site and approval to execute all necessary documents? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Let's go on to the next thing. We've got Mr. Joey Tackett here from Berkeley Land Company and Berkeley Development. Joey, you want to come on up? And we'll try to deal with this. This was a lease, I believe, that had already been executed by the prior court. Is that correct, Joey? And Mr. Keene and I were looking at it, and it looks like there was a problem with those leases. The leases that were done on and executed, it looks like on the 4th day of April 2016. I've only got one signed copy of that. The first lease.
Judge, if I may, We'd taken a look at those, and we had the same problem we had with some other leases that we'd encountered for the county. And by statute, the county can only enter leases for a total period of 40 years, including any renewal periods. And the original lease, and the First Amendment we looked at was a 40-year lease, but had an additional, I think it was 2 renewal periods, which would have extended well past the statutory limitation. And the new amendment does account for a total lease term of 40 years, which complies with the statute.
So it was the same problem we had with one of the golf course leases. They were done for 99 years, even though the state statute says that the full term can only be 40 years, including any renewal periods. So I'm looking at, I've got 3 different documents here. The one is the First Amendment to the lease agreement. Tell you what, Kevin, do we need to stand at these for a little while? Joey, can we go into recess and just look over these real quick and make sure, because now I've seen something else. I got just a quick comment. Let's just take about a 10-minute recess, and we'll come back in the call of the chair. We'll call the court back to order, and Joey, I'm sorry about that. I was looking, they had these documents organized incorrectly. There's pretty technical stuff. So basically, what we have here before us is an amendment to a lease that was previously entered by the court back on, it looks like the 4th of April in 2016. There was 2 leases. One was for Berkeley Land Company and one was for Berkeley Development. And when we looked at these, we recognized that there was a technical problem with the lease because they were both for a period of time well in excess of what the statute allows.
Correct.
They were 99-year leases. In 1995, a statute was passed that obviously the prior court wasn't aware of that limited public leases to 40 years, including any renewal terms. So what we have before the court are amendments, the First Amendment to the lease agreement of the one that was entered with Berkeley Land Company, and the other one was Berkeley Development. And this does relate to an economic development project. I've been asked to sort of not divulge a lot of terms. I think that your company's actively working on a deal that could create some jobs here. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
And a substantial number of jobs.
That's correct.
So I have before us in your packet, and they're not organized exactly the way they should be. One is they'll say First Amendment to lease agreement at the top, and the other one will say Amendment to lease agreement. And Judge Deskins, like I said, signed these back on April 4th, 2016. And I assume that, Frankie, do you remember these leases? So I assume that the court authorized those. We have not. And I'll go back and check. It looks like they did. There's letters in here from the Pike County attorney. And we'll make sure that if you could just look at the minutes, Lisa, to make sure that these were properly, the original leases were properly authorized by the court. If you could go back and look at those. But we can go ahead and do the amendment subject to any issues that we may find in the minutes. So is there a motion to approve the execution of the First Amendment to the lease agreement with Berkeley Land Company that was done on the 4th day of April 2016 by the previous administration?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. All right, the other lease, is there a motion to approve the amendment to the lease agreement entered on the 4th day of April 2016 with Berkeley Development Company? Is there a motion? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? Second. A second by Commissioner Booth. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. So Joy, we'll get these executed just as soon as the court meeting's over and get a
Okay.
copy of them to you. And we would like to set a meeting, if you pass it, with Mr. Turner, pass this on, and Mr. Harris about some issues that the county would like to have some assistance on in terms of our trail development. If we could set that meeting up here in the next couple of weeks, we'd appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry to keep you waiting so long.
No, that's fine.
The next item on the agenda is approval for lease PR 5604 for 2020 to 22 with the Finance Administration Cabinet, Department of Facilities and Support Services for property located on the third floor of the courthouse for the Cabinet for Justice and Public Safety and Department of Juvenile Justice. And Jeannie has worked on this. This would lease the old space that was to be used for it was used by probation and parole. My first office when I was Assistant County Attorney, Child Support Office was there. It was, I think, originally constructed to be Dan Jack Combs' office when he was on the Court of Appeals. And we have a proposed lease agreement that would pay us $5,628 quarterly. It's a 1,608-foot space, and that is $14 per square foot. And it would run through June of 2022. It would be a 2-year term, and it would generate $22,000 change for the county per year. Is there a motion to approve the lease?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. And Mr. Keene has reviewed this lease as well. So is there any other question or discussion?
Jeannie, how much more space are they up there? Are they more, are they?
That's it, that's on
Okay, okay.
any space.
What about over in the annex building? Is that third floor rented too? Half of it? Half of it isn't?
That's what we're talking about if we are to do it.
Yeah, so the third floor would go to the, okay.
The jail offices would be, administration would go up to the third floor and the other space.
I was
down there.
thinking fourth floor too, but we got the museum and 911 on the fourth floor, right? Okay.
So we have a motion second. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. So we have here also a letter from February 12th, 2020 from Miss Linda Ain. And Jeannie, I'll let you put that in my office too. I've got another letter I want to just share with the members of the court. This is something that we received, that we found, that goes all the way back to May of 2014. And would you all pass those over so that way each one of the commissioners can have one, the deputy judge. And Mr. Ratliff, who's been working on this issue, is on vacation this week. And so we've had all these issues come up with Suddenlink. And, you know, we are somewhat, this is a very complicated area of law. It's unlimited the number of complaints that we've received over poor television and internet service from Suddenlink. And Judge Hickman and Mr. Ratliff had previously met with Suddenlink 2 months ago probably, and they had promised to basically address these issues, and it appears that they've not done that. This weekend, I talked to Les Stapleton, who is mayor of Prestonsburg. There was a meeting today at 10 a.m. with the city of Pikeville and Suddenlink. We couldn't attend that. I had planned on being there. We currently have a meeting set up in the first week of March, 4th or 5th. Hang on 1 second. We have another public meeting that a group of citizens has set here. I think it's on February 25th at 5:30 in the afternoon. that will take place here, we really are limited on what our options are. We have a letter from the law firm of Linda Ain. Now, Linda Ain is an attorney in Lexington who has represented the county since the franchise agreements were initially done back when Governor Patton was county judge. And she wrote a letter to former, the late John Day Hayes back in May of 2014. And she said basically, the county had three options regarding its cable franchises. One will be to get a 6-month extension from both of the county's cable operators, Suddenlink and Intermountain, and work with the cable operators to renew the franchises. The second would be to get a 5 to 10 year extension. The third would be to let the franchises expire to work to renew the franchises. But the problem is, if we were to try to take action, and there's some laws set out in this agreement, and try to basically force Suddenlink or Altus to leave the area, there's no guarantee that another provider would come in and service that area. It's a rural area. I suspect that the cost to come in and take that over would be substantial. And it would seem to me, before we do anything, we need to address the issues with the quality of the service that Suddenlink or Altus is providing. And there's another letter. I talked to Ms. Ain this week, and she has done work for the county before. The letter dated on February 12, 2020 sets forth the terms under which she would agree to represent the county. This is not something that I can do or that Mr. King can do, because if you go back and look at the 2014 letter, this involves federal FCC regulation under 47 USC. It involves areas of, she even cites areas of the Kentucky Constitution. It involves KRS. And all Ms. Ain does, essentially, her practice is represent counties and cities with regard to franchise agreements. That's the scope of her practice. Obviously, the court knew back in 2014 that this agreement was either ready to expire or had expired. Actually, according to Mr. Hayes' letter, the county's franchise agreements expired on June 7th, 2014. I don't see anything that was done to either extend these, renew them, but Ms. Ain has explained that the agreements continue month to month and would still be in force even after the expiration of the term. So it would be my recommendation that we retain her to represent the county and help address some of these issues. I look to see whether the county could, either the county or the individuals could file a class action lawsuit. It appears from a model subscriber agreement that there is an arbitration provision and a provision that prohibits individuals from joining class actions in those agreements. Now, I've not seen an actual agreement signed by a customer to see whether we might have grounds to attack the validity of the arbitration agreement. But the problem is, when an individual signs an arbitration agreement, you basically are contracting away your right to bring a civil action. It's probably the greatest injustice that you'll ever see. Even, hospitals and doctors are even asking people to sign those when they go in, something that you should never do. But, if you take a credit card, you go to a stockbroker, most every financial institution will have some type of arbitration provision, as will phone companies, television companies, and so forth. But it would be my recommendation that we contact or go ahead and retain Ms. Ain to address this issue. It's expensive. Mr. Stacy has already warned me that that her services are expensive, but we have a lot of customers of Altus in this county that simply are paying for service that they don't have available to them.
Judge, I got a lot of calls last week, so they've been out for over 3 weeks. But also, last night I was at a volleyball game, and Bill Tick Powell was telling me that he called me, or one of his family members called me last week, and I called to get Vince on this, or let him talk to Vince, and Vince was gone at the time, but he talked to Jeff. He said he showed up this week, and everything was working good for right now. He just wanted to thank the court for getting after that. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the people on Elkhorn Creek. I've not had no more calls saying that they're out, but they did do some work on it the first week. But I'm like you, 3 weeks there's no excuse for that.
Now, we've looked for a copy of the franchise agreement. Lisa, would you be able to find a copy of it?
You have those.
You got a copy of it?
And I will second that.
I'd like to get a copy of the existing agreement to the members of the court, and let's see what it talks about in terms of our options on the quality of service. But the terms of her representation is she bills $350 an hour plus her expenses, and on a 30-day invoice. So we may terminate it at any time. She will retain the files for 5 years. But this is something that I have no experience in. I don't think Kevin has any experience dealing with it. And when you're dealing with federal FCC regulation, that type of thing, I just don't feel comfortable trying to represent the county, and I don't think Kevin does either. There's a reason the city of Pikeville and Prestonsburg have hired Miss Ain, and it would be my recommendation that the court retain Miss Ain's services to represent them in regard to this franchise agreement and the quality issues that we're having with Altus.
And I will second that.
All right, so I will make the motion to hire the law firm of Linda Ain. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any question or discussion or comment by the court? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. So we have, the next item is authorization for orders of affiliation for Shelby Creek Volunteer Rescue Squad, Camper Fire and Rescue, Grapevine Volunteer Fire Department, Pike County Technical Rescue, and East Kentucky Trackers. Doug, would you like to come up and explain this for us?
These orders of affiliation are required by the Kentucky Division of Emergency Management for rescue squads that wish to be able to apply for grants through them or use their workers' compensation to be covered when they're doing their duties.
Say that one more time.
Okay.
You lost me.
The Kentucky Division of Emergency Management requires rescue squads that wish to be affiliated to use their workers' comp and or to apply for grants through the Rescue Grant Aid Program to have an order of affiliation with the county.
I think I understand.
Okay, and with that, it details what the squads can do and what they can't do.
And that would, does that provide coverage under the state workers' comp system for the volunteers?
Yes, it does.
That's what I was, and then are we paying the liability coverage for any of those rescue squad vehicles?
Yes, we are.
So in addition to the ISO money we get to the fire departments, we're also insuring all their buildings.
Right.
Here, a lot of their buildings, insuring all the fire trucks.
Yes.
And all the rescue squad vehicles.
Yes.
So that's another thing I didn't mention earlier. All right. Is there a motion to authorize orders of affiliation for the Shelby Creek Volunteer Rescue Squad, Camper Fire and Rescue, Grapevine Volunteer Fire Department, Pike County Technical Rescue, and East Kentucky Trackers?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Next item is awarding of bids. Mr. Fannin.
Yes, Judge, we have a couple of things to go over today. We had a bid opening yesterday, February 17th.
on bid number 02-2020 for one 2019 or newer one-ton truck. This is an additional truck. I'd been asked to bid for one of our easy dumpers, which will make us a total of 5. I received one bid. It was from Bruce Walters Ford here in Pikeville. They bid a 2019 Ford F-350 four-wheel drive diesel for a price of $40,234. This truck does meet all the specifications laid out in the bid package. It's my recommendation that we award the bid to Bruce Walters Ford of Pikeville for a bid price of $40,234.
Chuck, can you come up to the table for a second? I think, Greg, we already authorized the purchase of one of the dump units, correct?
Yes.
Chuck, how are the easy dump units working right now?
They're working good, Judge. I mean, they're getting as much done with those as they ever was the mini packers. And without any kind of breakdowns, they're doing a good job. They're doing what they're designed to do.
Are they less maintenance than a mini packer?
Oh yeah, there's a lot less maintenance.
I mentioned when Commissioner Roberts and I were over at the maintenance garage Friday, we had 3 of the 5 Dodges down, plus we've had a substantial number of vehicles down. And as JJ said, when your backup's a 2003 model, it's just not sustainable.
Right.
Now, we had talked about buying some additional units because they're half the price, but, you've convinced me, and Brian Booth has convinced me that we need to sort of, this will be the last of the easy dump units that we would purchase until we see how the 11 yards would work.
Correct.
Because if Commissioner Booth's right and you're right, you could probably eliminate 2 mini packers, the older mini packers, for each one of the 11 yards that we buy.
Right.
That would be a tremendous cost savings because we're just throwing so much money at them in terms of maintenance. Is that a fair statement, JJ? We're spending a lot of money on those units. I'll bring you. Come on up here to the table. I want to run this by you anyway. Since we're on this subject, we'll just go ahead and deal with it. JJ, how many units do you have over there to work on right now of everything? Garbage, road, et cetera.
$18.
So we had 24 at the last meeting. We still got 18 units. How many of those are garbage trucks?
10.
So we got 10 garbage trucks out right now. I have a question for you. Was it that way under the prior administration too?
Well, the older they get, the more problems you're going to have. And we've got one at Worldwide that's been there for 3 weeks. We've got one that's got to go to Worldwide when we get hit back. We've got one at Moore's that's been over about 6 weeks, and we've got one that goes to Moore's when we get that one back.
Why can't Moore fix the Dodge garbage truck?
We went and got it last week, put it on the road, and they didn't make it to a couple hours. We'd go get it and take it back to Moore's.
And I'll touch base with Worldwide. We've got a truck that's been there for how long? 6 weeks?
A little over 3 weeks.
3 weeks. We'll touch base with them today to see if we can't.
Do what?
We'll touch base with Worldwide to see if we can't.
Because I have another one over there with the same issue, and it's under warranty, and there's no need taking it down until we get that one back.
Won't they take both of them at the same
They
time?
won't work on them both at the same time.
What's wrong with the one that's been in the garage for 3 weeks?
It's the emission side, and then they had to put 2 injectors and all the injector O-rings, and that still didn't fix the truck. That's all was under warranty. And then they called me last week and tell me that the wiring harness is messed up, engine wiring harness, and I'm not for sure, but I believe it's like $2,100.
What year is this truck, JJ?
16. And we're having a whole lot of our mini packer problems. And like this packer that we've got down there now, seems to be a rat problem.
Chuck, how many easy dumps do you need to get them Dodge trucks out of the way?
Well, I think we was talking about, the 12 yards here.
I mean,
What are we gonna do on that today?
I don't
'Cause
know.
that should eliminate you, I mean, that should be,
I just know, I wanna know what we need to do to get the gasoline Dodge trucks.
we probably just need to
Out
go
of
ahead
the
and get
situation
two
and
orders,
let's
two
move
more
on.
12 yards.
Let me say this. Every one of those mini packers, not just the Dodges, but the six GMCs, they all need to be gone.
We need to replace them and let's,
They've done their job.
they've done their job. They come here to do what they've done.
And when Ronnie and I were over there Friday, we talked about getting the Dodges off as soon as possible. Some of them are still under warranty, taking them to the auction, because I'm sure there's somewhere that's not mountainous, it's in an urban area that they might be able to use them and get better service out of them. Yeah, so we could salvage some of the money on them. The wrong truck for this. So the only problem about buying more from what, I mean, it's just, I'm putting everybody's opinions together, is if you buy more of the easy dumps, you may end up not needing them because, for.
Do you figure, Chuck, that this last easy dump order we've already overdrive, even if we have an easy dump go down in the future, we'll still have that easy dump to drive?
Yes, I do. We need to move towards those 12-yard trucks and quit buying easy dumps for now anyways until we see what the 12 yards will do, because I expect. Right. Because ideally, they should take the place of two mini packers. I mean, you're getting about 3 tons a day is what you're hauling on a mini packer.
Well, let me ask you this. We bought 4 easy dumps. We got 4 on the road now.
4 on the road now.
Why have we not been able to take any of the mini packers out of service?
Because we can't, they stay broke down and get one feet. I mean, we can't determine what needs to come off the road because we can't get them running long enough to.
The ones you've got down right now, JJ, what's down? What garbage trucks are down?
Mini packer, and then the 2 packer.
So you got 6 mini packers and 2 packers down? You said 8, right? Or 9?
And we fixed it. See, like this morning, 2 come in this morning, we had to repair.
Go over those numbers. How many garbage trucks are down?
10.
So 8 mini packers out of the fleet of 11 are down.
And see, the problem is about keeping, taking them out. Like this morning, they brought 2 more in right off the bat, before they ever started running this morning.
Same thing happened.
2 of them had hydraulic hoses, but one of them had 2 hydraulic hoses busted on it, and the other one had the big hydraulic line that goes to the main hydraulic tank and the fitting that screws up into the tank leaking. And you got to fix them before you can get back into working on the
And
ones
same
that
thing
you've already
happened Monday too.
Chuck, what'd you tell me that some of the lots run on yesterday? We was talking about it yesterday.
They're having.
Or what lot you told me that was, but they was like a 2 pickups and a.
The Robson Creek lot was down to, they ran the biggest part of the day yesterday with one of those easy dumps and a pickup truck. And then about half the day, they got the Dodge back on the road. So,
This is the only reason I thought, to keep doing what we're doing, if we buy 2 more Pete's, so you're another 4 or 5 or 6 months to get them. And I don't know how we pick the garbage up when you got 10 trucks down.
they're using the foreman trucks right now to haul garbage. And I hate to see that happen because, you're just wearing out a truck for.
it's like we've got 3 right now, mini packers, and 2 large packers that we can't get them worked on. You know what I'm saying?
What road vehicles you got down, JoJo?
District 2's got 2 pickups down. District 4 has got that paver. I was gonna talk to Fabian and see if we was gonna repair that or auction it. And Ike's got a plow on the solder we gotta put in. The truck it took from solid waste to him. Recycle has got their new recycle truck down with manifold gaskets and turbo gaskets blowed on it. And we're working on it now.
Is this a no-win situation?
The boom truck. The boom truck. Yeah.
Boom truck's down.
Yeah. No, it's got manifold gaskets and turbo gaskets blowed on it. All the exhaust is coming up through the floorboard. And they're on it today, working on it this morning.
Let's do this. Let's go ahead and take it. Is there a motion to award bid number 2-2020 for a F-350 four-wheel drive diesel to Waters Ford for $40,234?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Booth. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Now, there's 2, with regard to the 12 yards, we'll go back to that. Chuck and I've had some conversations about whether we ought to wait until we get the peats in to make sure that they're not too big, that they'll work. On the other hand, if, you're just we're just throwing good money after bad. That's money we could be paying. The maintenance money, parts, labor is money we could be spending on making payments or paying toward the new ones. So, the question is, Chuck, are you willing to take a gamble? Because it is,
It's a gamble.
If the
It's
peaks
a
are
gamble.
too big, if we get these things and they're too big, you don't think so? Ronnie knows more about trucks, okay.
But here's where we're at. Even if they won't work as designed exactly, they'll still be useful because we're not going to go back to the same situation as the Dodges. I can still use these trucks. They might not be able to get them as many places as we think they will because, like I said, we don't know till we get them on the road. Now, I'm just being honest about that.
So let me ask you this. If we buy 2 more, we don't have to pay for them until the next fiscal year, right?
There's a 6-month lead time on them. That it'll be August when we pay for them.
If we don't get them quicker than that, we got big problems.
Pardon? 4 to 5 months. It's going to be probably June.
Can't get rid of them until you get the 12 yards.
I hate to if we keep buying easy dumps, we're going to be buying trucks that we may not need. I just think we need to wait a minute and see what we're going to do. Let's give time, get to his pizza in here and get them on the road and see what they can do. That'll make a total of 4.
Got a motion by Commissioner Booth to buy 2 more Peterbilt 11 yards, 12 yards. Second by Commissioner Robertson. Is there any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett? Commissioner Booth? Yes. Judge Jones?
Yes. All right. Greg, you have anything else?
Yes. Another issue, something we've been discussing for several months, is our need for a hydro jetter. I've been working with Road Supervisor Fabian Little pretty hard in the last couple of weeks, trying to determine exactly what we needed for our use. District 5 with the state has a hydro jetter that I think Fabian has taken a look at and watched work. I had a discussion with the rep from the company that's a distributor for that machine and explained to him that, we would use it for drains up to 24 inches. And he told me that that was really the type of the machine that we needed for that size of work. This is a pretty heavy-duty machine. It's an O'Brien. The manufacturer's O'Brien. Is distributed by Hyvac in Marietta, Ohio, near Parkersburg. This machine that he sent me a quote on is a 74 horsepower diesel. It's got a 700-pound water tank. It's got 400 foot of line. I think Fabian is a little more familiar with this machine than what I am, but he says it is what we need to take care of the things that we have. This machine actually is on our Sourcewell contract, our buying co-op group, but it is kind of pricey. It's $87,117.65. Now, last couple of days I found out through Frankie and Fabian that the state has actually offered to rent by the hour their machine.
No.
Is that correct?
No, it's not a rent. It's not a rental. It's just a interlocal agreement that they will
Use
help.
by the hour or
That
something?
we can just use when they are
let's just move
at their
on.
convenience.
87,000, there's no way. We'll just figure it out. If the state's willing to let us use their machine,
Well, it's at their convenience. It's not, we don't get to use it whenever, we can't just go get it.
We need
And
to-
they have to, then they'll furnish their operator.
I mean, we talked at the last court meeting that we need 3 mowers at roughly 90,000 each.
We do.
I mean, the problem is, we raised the solid waste fee to cover the equipment, and that's what we explained to the people, that part of the money for the rate increase will be used to replace the junk equipment so we can improve service and to expand the landfill so we would have garbage service in the future. But, we're going to have to, we need to slow down on this, on the jetter. We've just spent, another, $250,000 or so here today on these other 2 garbage trucks. I'd like to wait toward the end of the year and see where we are financially before we make any other big purchases. And I never assumed, the county had 2 jetters and both of them were tore up last year. Is that right, Fabian?
Correct.
And if we do at some point buy another one, it's going to be operated by a crew that is responsible for it. It ain't going to be going around to everybody in the county using it. It's going to be somebody who's trained on it and using it. And if they break it, they won't have a job because, that's a lot of money to be spending. And, we've had issues before with people just, not taking care of this equipment. And, we're holding them accountable for that. If you tear up county equipment because of neglect, you ain't going to be working here. We can't afford that. But it would be my motion that we pass over purchasing this jetter right now until we get a little bit better idea of what we're dealing with. Make a list, Fabian, of what we need to jet, and I'll call District 12, beg to them, plead with them, whatever we have to do to let us borrow it if it'll save us that much money.
Yeah, I've got the agreement in the office.
Okay. And if you've got the agreement, we need it on the agenda for the next meeting, or if you want to go get it right now, we can put it on this agenda.
Let me go get it.
Go grab it. And then, Greg, do you have anything else?
I don't.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll stand at ease till Mr. Little gets back. And while he's doing that, let's go ahead and do the treasurer's business. Mr. Stacy?
First thing I have would be to authorize the following interfund transfer for January, to transfer $1.1 million from the general fund to the road fund.
All right. Would you explain the purpose of that transfer? Is that a budgeted transfer?
It is a budgeted transfer. The biggest reason why the amount's so high is because we paid that Guardian Retention Systems $500,000 last month for FEMA work, and then we paid $200,000 for the blacktop on the discretionary money, that $192,000 last month to Mountain Enterprise.
And we'll get that money back.
We will get that money back, but as far as expenses, it came out of the road fund last month, and I need to transfer money in to cover them.
Okay. So is there a motion to authorize an interfund transfer for January 2020 in the amount of $1,100,000 from the general fund to the road fund? We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes.
Authorize payment of the expenditure approval list dated February 17th and any other utility and telephone bills received until we run checks, which should be next Monday. The bill list right now is at $703,000.
And everybody's had a copy of those. You have any questions or comments on it? That's, yeah, you know, my blood pressure was a lot lower when I saw this one than last month. That's less than half of what it was last month. So, is there a motion to authorize payment of expenditure approval list? Judge Hickman's gone through them. I went through most of them yesterday with him. Did y'all have any questions about anything? A lot of these bills are substantially down, and that's what we're going to have to make these numbers work. So, all right. Is there a motion to approve the bill payment list dated January 17, 2020, and any other utility and telephone bills received prior to the check run?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Booth. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes.
Acknowledge receipt of the sheriff and the clerk's 2550 report for January 2020.
Is there a motion to authorize, acknowledge receipt of the sheriff's and clerk's 2550 reports for January 2009? That should be 2020.
2020, I'm sorry.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Any question or comment? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes.
Acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's financial statement report for January 31st, 2020.
Is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's financial statement ending January 31st, 2020?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes.
Authorize checks for lodging, registration, and expenses for any employee who needs to attend the KMCA Spring Conference, March 4th through the 6th, 2020, at the Griffin Gate Marriott in Lexington.
Is there a motion to authorize checks for lodging, registration expenses for employees who need to attend the KMCA Spring Conference, March 4th to 6th at Griffin Gate?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Any question or discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes.
Last thing I have would be to authorize checks for lodging, registration, and expenses for any employee who needs to attend the Kentucky Division of Waste Management's grants training, March 10th, 2020 in Frankfort.
Is there a motion to authorize checks for lodging, registration expenses for any employee who needs to attend the Kentucky Division of Waste Management Grants Training, money well spent, I would assume. Sharon, you'll probably be going to that one because it helps bring quite a bit of money into the county. So is there a motion?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Who got it?
Is there a second?
Second.
You made the motion.
Okay.
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Roberts.
What I asked?
Is there any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Hey, Judge, I do have one last thing. I need authorization for a check to pay for the truck to Bruce Waters Ford for that Ford F-350 that was awarded today.
Is there a motion to authorize a check for Bruce Waters Ford for the truck that we purchased today?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second. A second by Commissioner Booth. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth? Judge Jones?
Yes. So I'm going to skip around here just a little bit because, Mr. Little, why don't you come on up and let's go ahead and talk. We have before us the county's road progress report. It is in the packet. Sets forth the work that's been done, work that's being worked on now, and the upcoming road work to be performed. Fabian, I'd ask, at the next court meeting, the map that you did that sort of identifies that we could show the public the areas where we've worked on in the last year, could we get that and have it?
We do. Hold on just a second, I think. Can you pull that up? Just bear with me just a second. So this is, all right, let me back up just a minute.
Easy.
So this is a program that we'd purchased, I don't know what, Reggie, probably, Mr. Hickman, probably about 3 or 4 months into prior, okay. So this is.
Can we move that, move it around a little bit so we could?
If I can get it to, okay. So this is basically off from the program that Mr. Tackett uses over in 911. And they base this for us so we can map our jobs. What you're looking at here is mostly just the, this is what we have to do currently. Okay.
Can you click on one of those tabs and it shows what the work is that needs to be done on that?
Sure.
Yeah, everything's not on there, right, Fabian?
No, like I said, this is only going to represent about 65% of what we've done because we currently don't have this, in the field 100%. We're working on it. The writer of this program is working hard with us to get this where we can. This will be solely the only thing that we use for our work orders and also for the foreman to put their work orders on here also.
So these,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Because basically, like you can see, like on this road here, the road to be done would be the pothole patch, and then also to grade and gravel. And then the foreman would be able to come down to the bottom and he can select, what the date was that he completed the work, the employees, their time, the equipment hours, what equipment they used, and then the materials used. And, that's going to be really good because we had no way of tracking anything, basically, what we had done. So eventually what we're going to have is we can go back 3 years from now. If someone wants to say, you've not gravelled our road in 2 years, we can go back and pull this up and show, well, yeah, we did. We put 3 loads on this date, so we can track what we're doing.
Go back to the map if you don't care. So each icon's work that's either being done or is to be done?
Right, on this one right here, that is work that is either, to be done or is being done right now. What I was really interested in is because if we go to the history, and it shows, this will show the work that we have done so far. And like I said, this is only going to represent about 65% of the work because we still are using paper work orders. So it's all, it's not 100% of the work yet that is being logged on here. So, I thought that was pretty impressive for the area, the coverage that we've worked in and the amount of work that we have done.
Will the technology improve the service and take some of the work? Basically, we were doing it the way you did it 30 years ago when you worked for the county. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. Exactly right. Yes.
And the technology will make it easier to transmit work orders, to show what's the progress and so forth.
Yeah, and you won't have the redundancy of someone having to copy paperwork. The report that we generate right now, the paperwork comes in, then she puts that into an Excel spreadsheet. So she's retyping that. Well, with this system, once we get to be completely 100%, she can just print this off and give this directly to the court as the work that's been done. Well, it really will. It's just going to be a lot easier, but it's not just that. It's the record keeping too. We can go back and check history. We can get an idea of how much gravel we're spending in a certain area or on a certain road. It'll take a little while, but later on, eventually, we'll be able to compile all that. And
one of the issues that will there be any cost savings, do you think, with this, as far as just a time factor?
Sure, a lot of cost savings. Well, if you wanted to put just as this, as the foreman will no longer have to run their paperwork. That's a small savings, but they won't have to come from Phelps to the courthouse to hand deliver paperwork.
Anybody have any questions or comments about it? One of the issues that we talked about yesterday, and I mentioned a minute ago, you had said that we were going to need 3 new mowers because the stuff that's out of service. And I had heard yesterday that we got 2 of the mowers on the Robinson Creek Road lot. One has a seal. One's using about a gallon of hydraulic oil a day. Is that what we told you? Because there's a seal that needs to be replaced. JJ, do you know anything about that? And another one's got a
Old man, old leak on it, we fixed it, took it back from them to old that
Actually, he's mowing up there today.
Okay. And then there was another one that had a hydraulic hose. One's got a side deck mower on it that had a hydraulic hose busted. Anything, you know anything about that?
That would have been 2, I would say. That was on the New Holland mower, JJ. I think that was the New Holland off from Robinson Creek. No, we took Marbones to the lot.
Let me throw something out at you. And I don't like to even discuss this, but when we're sitting here looking at having to spend $250,000 for mowing equipment, coming right out of the county budget, would it be? We need to look at the economy of trying to contract out like the state does the mowing.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. It honestly wouldn't.
There's only so much equipment that JJ in the garage can repair and maintain. And we're going to have to look at cost savings. There's no question about that. And we need to at least have the information. I'm not saying that we'll do it. I'm not saying that it's something that should be done.
Well, but I'd agree with you. It was something that you would need to have that information to see.
But if we don't know what the cost savings might be, then we've not done our job. So I'd like for you to approach one of the companies and get an idea if it's something. There's some counties that don't even cut weeds. That's something that the public's got accustomed to. It's, my holler, I complained about it a couple years ago before I was in this seat because the weeds never got cut. And it's something that we're going to have to look at. That's something we're going to continue to do as part of our routine road maintenance. we need to look and see if there's a cheaper alternative to do it than what we're doing in-house.
Right.
Particularly if we're gonna have to be $250,000 out of pocket that we may not have, going forward.
Now, well, and that $250,000 is not gonna get you 100% or guarantee that we're not gonna get behind on our mowing, because we still have other mowers out there that are old and subject to breakdown.
And you still have other road work that has to be done.
That's right.
Is there any objection to at least investigating that? And, you know, it's just one of those things that the state found it necessary. The state doesn't use state highway department employees to cut weeds. And there's a question about whether that's a wise expenditure of county money and resources to do it in-house.
Right.
So it's something that we'll at least investigate.
We will.
The other issue is the remapping and to get our records in order for the state. They gave us 2 years because when we came in, just so the public will be reminded that the county's records were so poor, they didn't match the state records and that didn't match the ad district records on what roads have been taken in or taken out of the county road system.
Correct.
Where are we on that?
We're still a ways out, Judge. I was hoping to have that done by the end of this year. I was still hoping, but that may be a little lofty goal. I mean,
What's the process we're going by to get that in order?
Well, it's basically we're having to look at all three records that we have, find what the discrepancies are, log them, and then have to get them out to the foreman and let them run the roads for the mileage. And what I'm finding more of is our roads that we're working that the state and the ad don't have. I know Mr. Hickman there, I think he thought that we would become in under our road miles, and we still may, but from what I'm finding, that's not going to be true. I'm finding more roads that are not logged on to the state than I am vice versa.
And, you know, that's probably cost the county over the years a lot of county road aid.
Well, yeah, that's how we get our money, is by our road miles.
I mean, you know, to me,
Well, Commissioner Booth and I was on 2 roads the other day in his district that this Friday, because Mr. Kaiser was with us. That's the exact issue. The county has it logged in as a county road. It's been maintenance for how long? For 88, and you know the state doesn't have that as a county road. So that's mileage there that we're not getting paid for.
Yeah, because the formula takes into account the number of county road miles, if my memory serves me
It does.
correctly. So if the county's records have been that bad for so long, who knows how much money it's cost the county in state road aid money over the years because the records are not.
Right. But also, this is a big task on trying to get these roads.
But how many miles? I mean, we've had some different numbers. How many miles do you think we have in terms of county?
I honestly think we'll end up somewhere between 11 and 1,200. That's where I think we're at. I think the state has us around 9. And you know, it could be. It's not just that it's not only that we have roads that we're taking care of that the state don't have, but it's also that we have a lot of roads that the state says we're working 2/10, and we're actually working for a half a mile or a mile. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, that's just like on top of Ford Mountain, you know. I always thought Ford Mountain went down to the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
The right fork of Brushy starts on top of Ford Mountain.
Yeah, on the very top.
I mean, that really, Ford Mountain ought to be in the state road system.
Oh, I
Because it
agree.
connects one state road to another state road. And I'd like for you to get a list of the roads that should be, I mean, there may not be many of them, but we might be able to go to the state with a reasonable argument that they take over the maintenance on them.
Yeah.
Ford Mountain connects, you know.
Into what is it, 881?
881.
Yeah.
That's a state road, 194. So that's something we need to investigate.
Okay.
Fabian, I've got a question on this. Is this an app or what is it? I mean, what's is it on a?
No, this is a program.
It's a program?
Yeah. It's a program that the county had purchased. Like I said.
So we can't get this on our phones, right?
You can.
We can't have it put on the county phones?
Yeah. But honestly, though, this is mostly just for the foreman's use, for myself and the foreman. I mean, there's no reason why you can't have that information.
if you want to.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm smart enough to figure out how to use that, so.
I mean, I think it'd be a good deal for,
The technology seems helpful, though. All right. Is there a motion to approve the county's road maintenance progress report and road maintenance list? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
second,
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any question or discussion? See none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
yes,
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. So the other document that I've had prepared or handed to you that the State Transportation Cabinet prepared was what appears to be agreement for services to be performed in conjunction with governmental agencies. And this is the interlocal agreement that will allow us to work with, this one is for Pike County Shelby Maintenance. And for an estimated 96, they would work with us on, is this a jet or Fabian? From February 17th up to April 30th for a total of $93.96. Is there a motion to approve this agreement?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
second,
A second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
yes,
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Fabian, I'm giving you this agreement. And thank you, sir. Let's try to get a list of what we need to use the jetter for so we can make sure we do that. I just think it's rather than us going out and spending the money right now, if we can use theirs to get most of the problems taken care of them. And we need to get the one over in Jerry Bottom taken care of too. All right. Mr. Maynard had to leave because of a family medical emergency. We do need to update the court just briefly on some pending litigation. And Mr. King, would you please read the relevant Kentucky Revised Statutes?
Need a motion to adjourn to executive session under KRS 61810 subsection C to discuss pending litigation.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session? Motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Robertson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett? Yes. Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. We will be in recess relatively briefly for executive session. Return to call the chair. Is there a motion to adjourn from executive session? Motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Or was that Booth? Robertson. Second by Commissioner Booth. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. There's no need for personnel matters today since Mr. Maynard had to leave on a family medical emergency. Pike County Department Supervisor's comments. Ms. Thacker? Lori, anything from the animal shelter? Pam? Okay. Mr. Kaiser? Mr. Williamson? William, anything? I just want also, Doug, I want to commend you and your staff and all of the first responders who went up to the train derailment. Doug called me that morning right after it happened, sent me a message, and at that time, I think it's fair to say that they didn't know if the engineers were in the train, in the water, didn't know where they were. And the response from our fire and EMS community, state police, the sheriff's office was really remarkable. And I do think that this county is very, very fortunate to have the people in emergency management and our fire and EMS community and the police officers that we have. And I just want to, again, express my gratitude to them and thankful that no one from CSX was hurt. But when we got up there, I was on the bridge. Mr. Little rode up there with me, and somebody from CSX pulled up, and I said, "What's on those cars?" He said, "Ethanol." I said, "Well, is there a risk for an explosion?" He said, "Yeah, there is." And we are lucky that it could have been a lot worse because there's a lot of homes in that area. And I guess there's always a risk that that fire could have triggered a chain reaction. It didn't happen. And but again, we appreciate the CSX. They're working with the community. One of their representatives reached out to me that day. We had other local officials from Lawrence County, other counties surrounding Pike County. We had representative from Congressman Rogers' office and Senator McConnell's office called, wanted to know if there's anything that they could do. But I just want to, again, thank you, your staff, and everyone who helped make sure that was a successful recovery and cleanup. All right. Anyone else have anything to come before the court? Mr. Keene? Mr. Hickman, anything? Commissioner Tackett, we'll start with you today.
I just want to thank what a job y'all do in every department. And I know times are getting tougher, but we can work through it, and we'll work together as a team. And I just want to thank you all, including the road lot, solid waste. Thank y'all for what you do.
Commissioner Robertson.
I just want to thank everybody for what you all do for this county. I mean, we couldn't do what we do if it wasn't for all of you all. Just want to thank the fire departments that did go out to the train wreck the other morning. And I know they don't get a lot of credit for what they do. And if we didn't have them, we'd sure miss them. Thank you.
Judge, something I would like to say. There's two guys that's got a lot of history in this building that I think we need to keep them in our prayers. They've had some health issues as Wayne T. Rutherford and Bill Deskins.
I agree with you. And I would ask William, when you say the closing prayer today, if you would remember Judge Deskins and Judge Rutherford, your prayers. We want to wish them the best. I know they both have been under the weather. And, they both love this county, and they both serve this county in different capacities for many years. Haven't always agreed with them on every issue, but they've not always agreed with me either. But they're still both close friends of mine. For the years I've been on the same side of political issues with them and on different sides. But if you would, when you say your benediction today, William, if you would remember Judge Rutherford and Judge Deskins, we'd appreciate that. Commissioner Booth, you have anything, sir?
I'd just like to thank our employees, thank the jail for all they do over there. I'm telling you that, just like we said earlier today, the jail really does a lot for this county. It helps out, save us money and all. And also, I'd like to thank everybody that was up there, all our first responders and our fire departments that was on the scene the other day for the train wreck. I thought they done an outstanding job.
I want to commend Commissioner Booth. He and I went out with Mr. Little weekend before last, looked at some flood damage. And I'm going to just conclude my remarks with this. The commissioners have worked very hard, not just, people don't realize the work that takes place, not just in the court meeting or in the courthouse, but going out looking at road problems, looking at slides, looking at all the issues. And they're working hard on adventure tourism development and economic development. I appreciate that. We're going to continue to address these issues. The next court meeting will be March 3rd, 2020. We may have to change it to a special meeting because that coincides with the Magistrates Commissioners meeting, I believe. And we might have to move it up earlier in the day. Hopefully that meeting will not be as long as this one has. We've had a lot of issues come up today. We've made some progress, I believe. But with that being said, I would ask Mr. William Spears if he would say the benediction for us, and then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Let's pray. Father, we come to you today and we ask your blessings on Judge Rutherford and Judge Deskins, Lord, them and their families, Lord. They've served this county tirelessly for several years and were a big part in the development of this county.
Lord, we pray your blessings upon them and their family. We pray your blessing on the decisions made here today, Lord, and we pray that those decisions follow your will, and we ask that you bless them. We ask it all in the sweet name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Your motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Tackett. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we are adjourned until March 3rd, 2020, and that time will be announced.